Welcome to Now, Near, and the Future with Naila and Quinn Harrington. A podcast that's part crystal ball, part microscope, and part rocket ship.
Welcome to Now, Near, and the Future. I'm Quinn Harrington.
And I'm Naila. Today, we're talking about finding your authentic voice in business, literally.
What voice is that? What are you doing with that voice thing?
What voice thing?
You sound like you're narrating like a nature documentary or a true crime novel.
Well, I was trying to do something nice and different, and this is my podcast voice, but clearly it's not working. But let's just then move on, isn't it, Quinn?
Shall we?
And today's episode, we're exploring how creative professionals navigate authenticity, technology, and building sustainable careers in an increasingly digital world. And we're joined by Alaina, an award-winning voice actor. Is that better?
It's better. I like your regular voice. Your regular voice is perfect. We're diving into the voice acting industry, a field that's experiencing massive transformation thanks to AI, remote work, and the gaming boom. And saying welcome to you, Alaina. Let's start with the now segment. Alaina, you've been in voice acting for nearly a decade. AI is everywhere right now. How is it actually impacting your day-to-day business?
Yeah, well, first of all, Quinn, Naila, thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome getting to work with you and know you better over the years, and now to finally be a part of this project that I've also gotten to know is really cool. So thanks for having me this morning. But yeah, it's a great question. You know, I think this is such a nuanced topic, and I think creatives are rightfully scared right now of the impact that AI could have or is having on our workflow and on our business. And it's not just voice actors, it's voice directors, it's creative producers, it's graphic designers, it's editors, it's everybody's afraid of their jobs being automated away. And that's a legitimate fear. And we also don't have a crystal ball, and we don't know what's going to happen in a year or in even 6 months. It's moving so quickly. And I want to validate that. And I've certainly had those same fears and those same experiences and existential crises about, okay, am I going to have to find a new career just when I'm hitting my stride in this one? What's going to happen? But the reality is, because we can't really see the future, we have to just go with the data that we have and take it one day at a time and be as smart as we can, I think, in our businesses. And so for me, even though it has been scary, I've actually noticed growth in my business since the AI boom, which is the exact opposite of what I thought was going to happen. So my business has not only prospered financially, but I've had the opportunity to continue working and finding even better creative partners and maintaining the creative partnerships that I had who are just as concerned about AI, because we've had to talk about our values and we've had to talk about, hey, you guys all want to keep doing this, right? We don't want to be replaced by technology. So that's just sort of allowed for a natural paring down and a falling away of the lower paying jobs, the jobs that are less creative and less particular and less finessed. They've just sort of fallen away, and they've given way to jobs that really prioritize and align with the values that I have as a creative, to do the best storytelling that I can possibly do and present the most human narration that I possibly can, and to really connect with the listener. And I think that's something that humans will always have over AI, even when we're talking about AI characters, AI-like characters, robot characters in video games or in corporate videos or whatever it is. This is something that's at the forefront of our culture right now, where AI is just in the spotlight. And so it's very, very common to see and ask for an AI character. And that's actually opened up more opportunities for me to create AI characters in my own organic voice without even having to participate in AI technology at all. And when the lines are getting blurred between human and AI, and it sometimes can even be hard to tell that it's an AI voice, you know, they are getting pretty good. That actually gives us human voice actors an opportunity to embody some of those characters in a more human way. And from speaking to voice directors and other creatives in my field, they far prefer working with humans than they do prompting an AI because it's just so difficult to get it to do what you want it to do. Whereas humans can, we can communicate in ways that we understand. So it's actually been, it sounds like it's scary and I might eat my words in a year. I don't know, but it's actually been a very positive thing for my business.
That's great. I'm curious about some of the client conversations you've had when brands come to you. Are they asking about AI alternatives, or are they specifically seeking human content?
That is definitely one change that I've seen in the last year. There seems to be all of a sudden all these brand new companies that are trying to jump onto the AI train and get their piece of it, and offering very, very low rates to actors to create a digital replica of their voice that could then be licensed out to an unlimited amount of other clients without our knowledge or consent, and having no input on what it could be prompted to say. It could be prompted to say something we philosophically or emotionally disagree with. It could be prompted to say things that are incredibly offensive or sexual in nature. And they'll offer typically, and I've seen as low as $200. I've seen maybe as high as $5,000 as compensation to basically own a replica of your voice forever, and also be able to sell that replica to other companies in the future if their company were to be bought out, and then you'd have even less control. So this is what happened to, and now I wish I could remember this person's name and I could look it up, but the woman whose voice was cloned without her consent and is now the voice of all the announcements in the Scottish metro system. So, that's definitely a real concern. But I will say, more often than not, with the client partnerships that I do have with people I already know when we're talking about how AI is getting worked into the workflow, where I see it most often is actually in the pre-production process, where folks are wanting to kind of test the frames of their video. They might use an AI voice where before maybe a video editor would use their own voice. And so it actually just streamlines their process, and it is much cheaper to use the AI voice for something like that. I want to make clear, I still don't agree with using a foundational model that's built unethically, but a lot of people are doing that, and that actually leaves more room in the budget to then bring in the real human voice actor to do the final product, and it seems like it's helping their workflow. So I guess that's sort of like how it's impacted my day-to-day, but the most common comment that I do get from my clients who are using AI is, this is AI, it sucks, don't pay attention to it, but we want you to come in and make this the thing that you do.
I've had several conversations with high-profile clients, and they have requested that we use AI. And my first question is, why? Well, it's cheaper and you can do what you want. And my response is it really cheaper? I mean, because you're going to pay me $200 an hour to produce this, or I could hire a voice actor, hand off a script, and you're going to end up paying about the same amount, but you're going to get, a directable human who has great talent. And that conversation is usually quickly ended at that point.
Well, I appreciate it. Like I said, it's been a natural paring down of those who kind of just are looking for something cheap and fast and not high quality. And, that's okay with me because I don't really particularly want to work with those clients anyway. I value working with clients who really want to dig into the story and the humanity, because I do this because I love it. I would never want to automate that away. I want to show up and perform and tell stories. So, so I'm grateful to folks like you who really do care about the same thing.
Wonderful. You've worked with major brands like Google, Amazon, and Disney. By the way, who's your favorite Disney princess?
Oh, don't do this to me.
They're not real. None of them are going to be offended.
Okay, don't tell them. I go back and forth, but I think probably Rapunzel.
Okay. Mine's Ariel.
Yeah, that's my second one that I go back and forth. I love
What about
Ariel.
you, Naila? Do you have a Disney
I was
princess?
going to say, Ariel, I love The Little Mermaid, basically.
Well, Naila has a 1-year-old baby girl, and so I don't know if she's gotten into the Frozen verse yet, but Frozen universe, but that's coming soon.
No, she
Ye-
hasn't. She's on Miss Rachel.
Yeah.
That's her thing. I think she's won now, so she's getting out of it. So she learned a lot from Rachel. I even learned sign language, which was interesting, but not yet. She's not into Frozen. Nope.
Tell us who Miss Rachel is.
Miss Rachel basically on YouTube, well, she has loads of channels. She's got huge following and she does children's YouTube videos. So she teaches them. She does all the nursery rhymes. Basically, she's amazing. She's very inclusive as well. So she takes care of, sign language. She's teaching at the same time, or everything, how to get into school, preschool. Every kid loves her. And the minute you put her on, they smile. They smile more than
Wow.
they smile for their parents, basically.
Aw.
Yes. She's doing great work. She's doing great work. Yeah.
Yeah,
Can't
well,
beat
I'm sure you'll be signing her up with an agent very soon.
it. Hey, don't give me
No,
ideas.
seriously, one of my friends' sister lives out in LA, has a 4 or 5 year old, and the 4 or 5 year old has just got an agent.
No way.
I'm like, okay. And Chris is like, well, it's LA. I mean, it's what they do. What else are you gonna do? I was like, all right, make money off your kid. I'm all for it. Um, so the revolution that really happened, I guess maybe 10 or 15 years ago, is when um, voice actors started, building their own studios and recording remotely. How's that changed or expanded the way you work with your global clients?
I only entered the foray about 10 years ago, so I've never known anything different than recording remotely. I've gone to a studio here or there to, just rent out the booth to do my own work, but all of my clients around the world have been completely fine with me recording from home, including major studios in Los Angeles. And that is, I think, not only in part to this transition to remote that was already happening, but definitely in part due to COVID. If there's anything positive that came out of COVID, I think it has opened a lot of doors to a lot of people that otherwise, if they weren't living in a major hub for voiceover, really didn't have access to. We really learned that, wow, we can do this from anywhere. And yes, some of those opportunities have gone back to local only, but, I hypothesize, and I've heard from folks that I trust, that in about 5 to 7 years, the technology will be there, that even for something like a animated series or something where consistency is really key, and that's why everybody has to be in the same room, on the same microphone, on the same lot, the technology is coming that we will be able to do that from home. And I think that's wonderful because more power to you if you want to if you truly want to live in Los Angeles or in Dallas because you're doing anime or in New York City. Awesome. Like if that's what you want, go for it. But I believe that you can have it all. And if you want to be somewhere else because you're happier there, or if your support system is there, or financially you want to be there, and you want to pursue voice acting, I believe you can. I believe you can do everything, and I believe that I'm proof of that.
Totally agree. So, what skills have you had to develop beyond just having a great voice?
Oh my gosh. So many. I feel like I wear 32 different hats every single day. When I'm not working through my agents who are brilliant and fantastic, but I don't work with them through for everything. I am sort of the good cop and the bad cop in a lot of situations because I have to assert my rates and advocate for myself with clients behind the scenes before we get on the session. And I try to have all of that ironed out before we're ever in this situation. I don't ever want to discuss money or contracts or anything like that. Once we're in the room, it's time to act, right? Or it's time to deliver whatever story or whatever brand mission the client wants. And that's really what I want the focus of the session to be. But that requires laying a lot of groundwork. So that requires, becoming educated on what are appropriate rates for various projects. What are the right questions to ask your clients so you can figure out what that appropriate rate is? How to communicate that in an assertive but kind way so that they want to work with you, but that they also understand that you're not a pushover and that you stand behind your work and there's a reason why it's being sold at the industry standard rate. There's also building community, making sure that you have a trusted group of people that you can ask when you come up against problems that you haven't come up against before. There's the marketing aspect of it, making sure that your materials really represent where you are today and what you can do, and they're reflective of how you're going to show up in the booth, not only of your sound quality, but of your acting quality or performance quality. And coaching, taking classes, meeting the right people, putting yourself in front of people, because if they don't know you exist, they can't hire you. And just like maintaining relationships is a big part of it. So there's a lot, and I sort of joke that acting is probably about 10% of my day, and the rest is all of that other stuff, is all the business owner stuff. Just like any business, voice acting is it's running your own business, and a lot of this applies no matter what field you're starting a business in.
Yeah.
You can relate to that, right?
Yeah, everything you said, I was like, oh, that's exactly what we do. Whether it's about negotiating rates or running the business or collaborating with people, we're in the same space. It's just that I'm not a voice actor or an actor.
Exactly.
So I'm going to give you a pro tip, Alaina.
Okay.
In the marketing and advertising video space, we spend a lot of time putting proposals together. And so a proposal can take anywhere from 2 hours to a day.
Wow.
So, and a lot of times you'll send that off to the client and then you'll never hear back. And so that's a shame. So I created this this workshop. It's called the Brand Love Mini Workshop. It's a 2-hour session, and we go through all the kinds of things that you would want to know, like target audience and marketing goals and budget and scope and all that stuff. And in the end, I provide a very detailed report that outlines everything that we discussed along with the proposal. And so that's $1,000, which is a very low barrier of entry for a project that, we might take on. And if I can get a client to agree to do a workshop, there's like a 95% chance that they're going to hire us. So maybe think about something for, like, say, if you're starting doing work on like a new video game expansion or whatever, that you have like a little workshop that you put together and you charge maybe $500 or $1,000 or whatever makes sense. And you spend an hour and you talk about what is the goal, character development, all this kind of stuff. Provide that report to them along with your proposal, and then you're not doing this proposal work for free.
That's really interesting. Thank you. I'll definitely have to think about how that could translate into voice acting. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely think of some scenarios where I've sort of problem solved that by, doing a 10 or 15 minute free Zoom with the client to talk about that sort of thing, especially in situations where they don't want to be too involved. And I want to make sure I don't spend 30 hours recording a long form project only for them to say, redo the whole thing, right? So oftentimes what I will do in that situation, if they don't want to direct the session, they just are like, we trust you. And I go, okay, but let's try to mitigate any, additional revisions, especially on something that's going to take so much time. I will send a 30 to 60 second sample of what I think they want. And I'll ask if that's good to go for approval before I do the entire thing. And then I'll usually send the project in segments. So that same thing, I don't get too ahead of myself.
Yeah, you're really great about offering auditions.
Well,
that's
part
what
of the
helped you
game,
get
yeah.
that last job where, they're like, yeah, okay, so we'll test. We'll do an AI voice, and then we'll let Alaina read it, and then you decide.
Fair enough.
And they were like, wow, there's a difference.
And see,
fact,
that was a positive conversion right there. So,
in fact, well, we'll get to this in another segment.
okay.
All right, let's pitch to Naila. We're about to go around the room.
Oh, we're around the room. So this is one of our segments. We like to throw in a bit of a conversation, different conversation. So what's the weirdest thing you've had to do to voice recently?
This is going to take me a minute, maybe come back to me, because the thing about my job is that because I do 3 to 5 sessions a day and about 20 to 25 auditions a day, it really is like one ear out the other, and then I forget it. In the moment, it might be like, that was weird, but then I have to move on because it's just my day is go, go, go. But I don't know.
We'll come back to you.
Okay, come back to me.
Naila, what about you? What's going on? You're going to
Oh,
Paris.
yes, I'm going to Paris. I don't feel ready for it though, because there's been so much going on. There's like how many events I have to help plan and organize. So there's like two coming up, one in July and a workshop in July. I just don't feel ready. And I think I'm just feeling really antsy about leaving my baby for 3 nights. But I guess my husband will just get to see and manage it without me.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
going to have to get used to that.
Yeah. What about
But
you?
um, well, I just got a new setup for the podcast. It's the classic RE20 microphone that you see in like every radio station. It was the same microphone that I don't know if you guys remember the Fraser Crane show back from the 90s. It was this microphone that was sitting on his desk, and he would be like, "I'm Dr. Fraser Crane, and I'm listening." And I was sold on it at that moment.
Aw,
So just playing around with that, it's been a lot of fun and expanding my limited audio engineering skills.
love it.
Yeah. She's
I've
always
got
on this correcting my voice through mic, and I'm hoping this position is the right position for
It
the
is
voice.
better, but neither one of us have soundproofed rooms.
yeah,
So we don't have a minus 84 decibel
noise floor.
noise floor that I was reading on your website, and I was like, okay, I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I know I've been in actual recording booths before, and when they close the door, it feels like a vacuum. It's like
Yeah,
all
yeah,
the sound is sucked out. You can hear your heart beating. You're like, wow, this is
yeah.
intense.
Yeah, it's a little weird, but yeah, essentially that's something that I put on there for engineers so that if anybody is particular or they have doubts about hiring a remote voice talent, and I'm happy to back it up with receipts as well. I'm happy
You're
to
like,
send
no,
them
I
a
know my
file.
shit. So
Like my space is
she's
very,
like, I've
very
spent twenty
quiet. Yeah,
thousand dollars
yeah,
or more on all this stuff. This is not
exactly.
nothing.
I thought
Anything
of I
anything
thought
fun you've been up to lately other than voicing? Are you doing any stage or awards?
I haven't done any stage acting in a while. It's honestly, it's hard to kind of make that integrate into my schedule now that I'm just so busy with voice acting. And essentially, I'm working like a normal 9 to 5, but then there's also times when I work until 10 p.m. or I start at 6 a.m. depending on where my clients are. So trying to juggle that with theater, which, I had been doing 8 show a week contracts before where you would start your week on a Wednesday and you would do two shows, one show Thursday night, one show Friday night, two shows Saturday, and then two shows Sunday. Did I do that math right? Yeah. And it's full time except your weekend is Monday, Tuesday. So it's really tough to kind of go back to that. But I have been getting into the indie film scene here in Chicago. And that's been really rewarding and really scrappy and fun. And the Chicago filmmaking scene, everybody is so passionate and really, because nobody's making money on it, it's like you have to love it. You have to want to be out there in 25-degree weather. The equipment is failing and you're having to run into a coffee shop and wait for it to revive and then go back outside and your hands are cold and you're trying to power through the continuous shot that you're shooting. And it's stressful and hard. But then at the end of the day, everybody looks around and is like, we did that.
We did
It's
a
so cool.
thing.
Yeah. So that's been my
That's very
passion
cool.
project lately.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
And I thought of a weird thing that I had to
Yes.
do. I did think of it. I had an audio drama session where after we finished our primary task for the day, sometimes they'll say, oh, can you stick around and do these additional background voices? It's like, sure. They're like, okay, so this is for a different podcast, different audio drama podcast. And so you're a zombie. And they had myself and two other actors, and they were like, we basically want all of you doing like zombie moaning and groaning all at the same time. And you're all saying these same words, but kind of at different times. And she was like, okay, whenever you're ready, everybody start. And it was just the most horrifying thing you've ever heard. And then we
Wow.
all finished and kind of like, there was this awkward pause, and everyone was like, was that terrifying to listen to? So, yeah, I mean, it is a weird job at times.
That
Very
sounds
cool.
weird. And Quinn, you better not make me do no zombie voices. Every
Oh, that's coming up later in the script. You didn't get that?
But I think it's time we should introduce our guest properly. So, Alaina, thank you for joining us once again. Alaina Wist is a professional voice actor who's brought characters to life in major video games like Starfield, Skyrim, and Zenless Zone Zero, tongue twister. Her commercial work spans everyone from Google and Amazon to Victoria's Secret and Toyota, including the iconic "Let's Go Places" tagline we all heard. I didn't say it the way you're supposed to say it. How were you meant to say it?
Let's go places.
And you're a regular listener. If you're a regular listener, you've actually already heard Alaina's voice.
Welcome to Now, Near, and the Future with Naila Mir and Quinn Harrington.
She's the one who brings our podcast in intro animation to life each episode. And it's so good to actually see the face behind the voice. But what makes Alaina's story particularly relevant today is how she's built a thriving creative business while navigating massive industry changes. She's gone from traditional studio sessions to remote recording, which we talked about, from corporate narration to interactive gaming, all while staying authentically herself in an industry that's constantly evolving. Alaina, where can people find you on socials?
Yeah, mostly I'm on Instagram. I do have an at Alaina Wiss, just my name, but I don't really use that one very much. I kind of migrated a lot of my VO stuff over there because I thought people were getting annoyed with it on my personal page. I don't use that one very much. I use at Believe, which is BELLEIEVE. That is the one I use most often. I'm also on Twitter or X at Alaina Wiss. That's pretty much it. I don't really use. Oh, I'm on LinkedIn. You know, I post a lot about industry stuff on LinkedIn as well.
Okay, great. If you're not following, please follow Alaina. Shall we move to our next segment, Quinn?
Let's move to the next segment.
Yeah. Let's shift to near future, which is about the next 3 to 5 years. But before we go there, can you explain this?
It's me.
Fine by me.
Mm-hmm.
Great. I'm getting down a little bit. All right. I need some water. Yeah.
All right, what was that?
That is a day in my life. That was a gaming session that I did that was almost entirely efforts. So effort sounds in video gaming are sounds that we as voice actors make to give the player information about what's happening. So whether that is we are being attacked, we are attacking, we are throwing something, we're climbing, we're jumping, we are defending, whatever it is, us as voice actors, a big part of our job is to work in collaboration with our developers to give information to the player about how successful they are at any given moment. So did you scratch the enemy? Did you fatally wound the enemy? Have you killed the enemy? How close are they? How far away are they? What's coming in? Is it a grenade coming in? Is somebody running at you and raising their sword? What's going on? So it's essential to develop a vocabulary of these sounds so that when you get into a session and they say, okay, give me your lid on fire and it needs to be about 6 seconds long, that you're not then taking everybody's time up in the session to figure out in your brain what that sounds like and how to do it safely. So it's very important to have laid that groundwork before you're hired to come in and do this in a high stakes scenario for about 4 hours with 5 to 10 minute breaks throughout. So
That was
Yeah, when I came across that on your Instagram, I was like, this is like the most entertaining thing I've seen in a long time.
I did not expect that to blow up, but people did find it very entertaining.
that was funny. I don't know. How did you find that though?
I was on her feed. I was just scrolling through it to see if there's anything interesting that we could talk about, doing producer stuff. You always have to do your background.
I loved it. You should see my reaction when you play back the video.
I was like, I know what this is, but people listening are going to be like, what is happening right now?
I was like, oh my God, is she sick or what's happening? But while we're actually talking about the gaming industry, you've worked on different titles, and I don't know how to pronounce this properly. Bethesda? Bethesda?
Bethesda.
Bethesda.
Yeah.
Bethesda, and Netflix games. Where do you see these interactive entertainments going in the future? Like, where are they heading to?
We're having this conversation at an opportune time. We are at the pinnacle of an interactive strike right now with some of the major employers in this space and SAG-AFTRA, the Actors Union. It's a very complicated time. There's a lot hanging in the balance, and truly, I can't answer that question with much confidence because I really don't know what's going to happen. What I can tell you is that there is a deal on the table that these employers have presented after almost a year of negotiations that they've called their last, best, and final offer. This is today, June 5th, 2025. Something could change in 24 hours. I have no idea. And SAG-AFTRA is not fully satisfied with this deal. And they've tried to go back to the employers, ask for some changes. The employers have stonewalled them. And so things are getting very tense. Actors are fighting amongst themselves. And the one thing that everybody has in common is that they're all scared. Everyone is scared that either work is going to just go non-union or leave the country entirely because companies can't afford to continue missing deadlines and being, subject to the vulnerability to them that is a strike. Or companies may opt to use AI, and if the deal as it stands is approved, there are actors who are afraid that the AI protections are too lenient, that they allow for too many loopholes for employers to avoid bringing actors in live to record things, or even that certain digital replicas, those are independently created digital replicas, meaning the employer would have to scrape the internet for your voice or other publicly available data of your voice and create their own digital replica of you with your consent and with your compensation, that type of digital replica could be used in certain instances during a strike to scab for you. So there's a lot of heat happening right now in the voice acting community, and there's a lot of fear, and things are very tense, and it's not really clear which way things are going to go. But either way, there's going to be unhappy folks, no matter what happens. So we're hoping for a great deal to be reached. We're hoping that the employers and SAG-AFTRA can come to a great agreement and that everyone will feel safe continuing to come to work. But yeah, a lot of these bigger companies have had projects that have actually been struck and not authorized for us to work on for almost a year now. So it's been interesting to navigate for sure.
Wow. I mean,
Wow.
I thought that was all taken care of. I didn't know that was still going on.
It's still going on.
Oh, wow. And I mean, this is not I don't know much about gaming industry other than the fact that my nephews are on games all the time. And I can't even name half the games that they play. But does this also impact and VR and AR? Does it also fall in this space, or are there other opportunities in that space?
That's a good question. I'm not actually sure, but my inclination would be that if it's interactive in any capacity, it probably is covered work by SAG-AFTRA. There probably is a contract for it. So I would guess that yeah, and it's just complicated because yeah, it's just we could talk all day about this, but yeah, it's very complicated.
Well, we were interested in talking more about the gaming side of things and the storytelling side of things of gaming, and that they're getting more narrative driven, more like interactive films. How does that change what you do as a voice actor?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. We have these narrative games that are sprawling that might be 60 or 100 hours of playable content for the player. So that's great for us as voice actors because that means we get to come in and work more and supply more dialogue. And I don't know how I can't speak for other actors, but the narrative type work is my favorite thing to do because it feels the most like acting. And I know I should probably consider all of it acting, and it is. But it just doesn't feel the same when you're doing an explainer video versus you're really diving into that deep acting training that you're having to access and the whole breadth of human emotion for something like a very cinematic video game. So really, the way that it changes from genre to genre, for something like a really dramatic, cinematic, narrative video game it's just very, very honest. It's very grounded. It's very dropped in. You're really not performing. You're just expressing honestly the situation that's going on. You're thinking very specifically about who you're talking to and just trusting that that's enough and really trying not to put on anything. It's just very dropped in and grounded. And that's a word we hear a lot.
Yeah. So someone who is trying to get into the gaming voice side of things, like you, what kind of skills, what should they be focusing on if they want to get into gaming voice work?
Acting training,
Acting
100%.
training.
I don't think it can be skipped. You can either, you can go out and get experience by, just performing in improv troupes or whatever it is, or you can take the traditional route of taking class or a university program, which is what I did, not knowing I would end up on this side of acting. But I do think it's non-negotiable to develop acting skills in coachings or classes or something. And it's the casting directors and the voice directors out there have a really strong bullshit detector. Can I swear on this?
Yeah.
I just did.
Oh, okay, great. So if your audition, they can clock it in the first 2 seconds of your audition if you are not being honest and if you are not being real and if you're putting on and trying to do what you think they want to hear. And so if you don't have that acting training to kind of fall back on, I think it becomes very, very difficult to break into this space.
Back to that authentic way, authentic voice that they're looking for.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh. Well, I'm not getting there, but maybe you can offer some coaching if I wanted to get there.
I'll think about getting into the coaching space. I haven't yet.
Great.
All right, you ready to go across the pond?
Yes. Are you going to make me do something again?
Well, I mean, this is a volunteer act here, so.
So, Alaina,
Yes.
you've done voice all over the world, including Disney parks. And I saw on your LinkedIn that you do a pretty convincing Australian accent. Have you ever worked with British accents or UK clients?
Yes, I have, although I will not do it for like commercials and corporate narration. I don't know what it is, but I can only do it if it's a character. If it's like, a brand video or something, I don't want that responsibility. Like, I just am like, no, I'm going to get clocked. People are going to know. But if it's a character, I feel like you can say, well, it's not really England, right? It's like Middle Earth or something. It's some fictitious place. So it's okay if it's not perfect. But if it's like some bank in the UK, like, don't give me that responsibility.
Speaking of accents, are you familiar with the mid-Atlantic or transatlantic accent?
It's so funny because yes, but also everyone has a completely different idea of what that is, depending on who you ask. Because some people will say, oh, it's like that old movie voice that people used in Hollywood back in the day, that all the actors learned to speak that way because the sound quality wasn't great. So they had to adopt this like very clipped way of speaking and everyone talked like this on the radio and what. But that's usually not what clients mean when they say that. I find that my corporate clients, they mean not identifiable as either American or British. But my gaming clients basically mean RP English, like Queen's English.
Really?
So it's just like, who's asking? Because depending on who's asking, I will adjust.
Quinn,
What
why
kind of
don't
English do
try
you
it?
speak, Naila? Do you speak the Queen's English?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. At some point, because I was born in East London, that's what we call Cockney. I don't know if you know what that is,
Yeah.
but it's got a different accent to it. So people used to say I had a Cockney accent, but I think I've got pretty much plain English. Having lived in Pakistan for 24 years is just normal. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Gotcha.
Quinn, do you have an accent you can do?
Not really.
So she's making me do all these accents.
Well, you're actually legit British, so my translation would be just you mean like this, darling.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's terrible.
Okay.
Alaina, can you
very
do one
good.
better?
Oh yeah, we can do the Australian. Why not? So
Go on.
it's a bit, you know. So yeah, I did a commercial for a yacht. It was like a sort of like luxury sort of boat that people can rent and I guess like sail around Mexico and stuff. So yeah.
That sounds
That's
good.
pretty good, actually.
You know who's good at accents? My 11-year-old nephew.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah?
He loves doing accents. Now that I've met you, I might get him into voice acting.
All right, love it.
I used to be able to do a pretty good Bill Clinton accent.
Oh my God, Bill Clinton accent, not impression, an accent.
Well, impression.
I
So,
love it.
oh, Naila, what are you up to? You up to no good as always. I can just tell.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
from Arkansas, and here we do things a little differently down there.
It's like the vocal fry and the vocal
Yes.
fatigue.
Mhm.
Totally, I totally hear it.
I
A
like it.
little smokiness going on. I won't do a Hillary Clinton accent because who wants to hear that?
Oh my God.
All right, shall we move into the future? You said that you don't have a crystal ball, Alaina, but it is crystal ball time, so
All
you're going
right.
to have to give us your best guess on this.
All right.
Um, and it's funny, you mentioned earlier that you have been asked to do AI sounding voices. And so on this project we just completed, I paired you against kind of like a lower end AI voice gen, but I wanted a voice that sounded different than yours.
Mm-hmm.
And so you went ahead and recorded a different version of that, and I gave them both to the client, and they preferred your fake AI voice to the real AI voice.
Who's the real AI?
Well,
Just
I don't
kidding.
know. I mean, I was going to ask that same question, like, how do we even know if you're real? You could just be like a simulation.
I guess I guess we'll never know. You'll just have to take my word for it, I guess. Everything's digital, so this could be a deep fake right now, this whole interview. Who knows?
It'll save us a whole lot of time in the future for not having to do this. Just kidding. We do it because we love it.
Yeah.
Looking 10 to 15 years ahead, how do you think the industry balances authenticity with technology?
It's interesting because then it's like, how do we define authenticity? You know, because we are in a very strange, uncanny place right now where several times throughout my week, I will get a video reference from a client that's either a work in progress or, yeah, it's usually a work in progress. And I'll open it up and I'll start listening to it. And then I'll go back to the client notes and I'll discover while listening to it that they've said, this is AI. And I didn't know. If they had not said that, I wouldn't have known. Now, knowing it, then you listen to it and you're like, okay, yeah, I can hear it, or it breaks down after about 30 seconds and it starts kind of doing the same thing that it was doing before, or it accentuates a weird part of the word and then you clock it. But I mean, for a 30-second commercial, it is kind of good enough where we're at right now. So then it's like, is there, and I don't want to get too woo-woo or anything, but it's sort of like, is there a part of us in humans that can innately recognize when something is human or when it's not? And can we reliably trust that to indicate what is authentic and what isn't? And how far away are we from losing that and not being able to tell? So I don't know. We've seen a lot of different trends in voiceover, especially during the pandemic. We saw a big swoop from really high energy, announcer energy for like selling things and come and buy this thing. It's 15% off before the pandemic to, hey, it's COVID. We know you're all sick of it. Come buy this thing or don't. Who cares? Whatever. Like very flat, very like people did not want Chipper because they were really stressed and they were losing people and it was high stress and everybody's in their house and they're going crazy. And now we're starting to trend back more towards that Chipper, more announcery thing again. And that's what's resonating with consumers. So it's impossible to say like where on the authenticity spectrum will be in 10 to 15 years. But I think it is going to, I hypothesize that because we're going to be so inundated with AI and it's everywhere, it's in our face, that we're going to crave humanity and we're going to crave imperfection. We're going to crave people maybe even messing up words in a commercial or adding their little vocal quirks in or ad-libbing, inventing things, because AI can't invent. It can only take what's fed into it and spit it back out. So I do think, and I have started to see that a little bit already in audition requests, that people want it to be a little messy and not perfect at all.
When stock photography first came on the scene in the early 2000s, art directors were like, wow, I've got these resources, on a photo disc, and I can just, take it and use it. And, I don't have to spend, $5,000 for a photographer. And that was an amazing trend for a while. But then everybody else started using it too. And before long, we could pick out a stock photo, very easily. Same trend for stock video, where you can just take a look at something and just like, it's stock. It's got a certain style. It's supposed to be universal, all that. So, there's a strong desire to, create original content, with humans, even though it's expensive and it takes a while. But I feel like that the end result is so much more genuine and gives you such more ability to personalize it to the brand. I think that right now as we're going through this whole Gen I craze, that, I'm personally mesmerized by the stuff that's getting created. Stuff that is beyond the capabilities of even like a really good illustrator or a really good photographer, because it's like pure magic. But in 2 years, maybe even 6 months, I think people are going to grow tired of it. And you're like, yeah, I've seen that. I mean, it was cool 2 years ago, but it's done. It's been there. It's done. And I know AI will continue to evolve. And I know that there's an emerging trend that is happening as we speak, where manufacturers and brands are using specialty AI agents that have been trained on data, say from like Nielsen. And this just came out in C360 a couple days ago, so it's safe to talk about it now. But they have a new tool. It's called AI Screener, and what it's been trained on is decades of household data collected from real humans, over 300,000 households. And so rather than going into ChatGPT, which is scouring the entire universe, it's trained on this very limited model. And so when you punch something in like, Sophia, what flavors do you like in a ready-to-drink cocktail? It will spit back to you, these are the flavors that I like. And it will give you great detail. You can interact with it just like any other chatbot. And then it's going to provide you a report, recommendations based on, style, packaging, flavors, cues, things of that nature. So what clients are doing now is they're taking that information and they're dropping it into a Gen AI program to create a packaging design. So I asked the guy, how long will it be before this screener connects up with other Gen AIs where it's now end to end? And then so there's not really even a need for a designer or an agency. And he's like, 2026.
Really?
Right around the corner. Last question for you. Looking at your own career trajectory, where do you see voice acting as a profession heading? What does success look like for the next generation of voice actors?
I don't mean to discourage anyone from entering this field, but the advice that I would have given 10 years ago for getting started is so different from where we are now because of AI and because of COVID as well, because everyone has taken the last 5 years to get their home studios to be so up to par that they are on par with the studios in Burbank. It's that the barrier to entry is just higher for getting started. And so I do see a possibility for voice acting to become, human voice acting, to become kind of a luxury product we're starting to see some of those entry-level jobs, like I mentioned earlier, fall away. There used to be companies that were doing very low-paid audiobooks, which, first of all, I think is a genre that absolutely should be narrated by humans because that's a long time to be listening to an AI voice. But we are starting to see, like, Audible just went fully AI, I believe. Fact check me on that, but I believe I saw that announcement for their audiobooks, Amazon.
Okay.
And there used to be a big category of very, very low paying, like $40 for up to an hour of narration on a YouTube video that maybe, voice actors who were starting out might take that for experience and to try to get their feet wet. All AI now. If you go on YouTube and you start seeing YouTube shorts, it's almost all AI voices, just because it's quicker to pump out that content several times a day with an AI voice than to have somebody narrate it, and it's certainly cheaper. Is it good? No, but that was an entry-level job for somebody that's now kind of gone. So I don't think voice acting is going away by any means. I don't think there's ever anything that can replace art. There are still people who are paying thousands of dollars for a really good painting, right? So I think that voice acting, especially at the highest levels, especially Quinn, you mentioned, for these brands where reputation and imagery for them, brand image is so at stake, I do think they will continue to hire human and hire the best humans available because it's so important and because they can't copyright anything that's just publicly out there. It's a liability for them. So
yeah, that's a huge consideration, with any content that we're sharing with these big brands is that, it has to be licensable.
Yeah, nobody wants that. And also, like you mentioned too, I really agree with this, Quinn. Everything is going to start to sound the same. And then how do you stand out as a brand? This is the reason why we have exclusivity clauses for SAG commercials as actors, is that brands, it's an incentive for brands to work with SAG-AFTRA actors that they get built into that contract. Okay, if Alaina's working for Toyota, she's not going to then go and do a Ford commercial at the same time. You have her for the term of this contract, so she is your brand voice for this commercial. And I think that's important to brands. I just do. And I think that that's not going to go away. Do you
want to take us to the wrap, Naila?
Yes. So I think it was just along the lines you were talking about. We're still going to have voice acting and it's still going to be there. So those people who are trying to build their careers in this, what should they be looking at? I know you said coaching, but is there anything else that you would give advice on to anyone building their career, an authentic career?
Absolutely. Get into community. Biggest thing. I have seen people skyrocket their careers, no joke, in 2 years doing what I took 10 to do. I think not in a small part because they had community, because they had accountability, because they were surrounded by people who were either just a little bit ahead or right at that same level, right in that same mindset. So I think get into a Discord community and just hang out for a little bit and see what is everybody's day-to-day like. Does this sound good? Does this sound like something I really want to do? Not just the romantic idea of, I want to be in cartoons. It's like everyone wants to be in a Disney movie, of course. Everybody wants that, Okay, but do you want to do all of the hard work? Because if you don't enjoy that, it's going to be a long road to get to, wouldn't it be nice to be in a cartoon? So I think hanging out with other voice actors, and when appropriate, if you can find somebody who's sort of an unofficial mentor with consent, and don't be disrespectful of people's time and boundaries and all of that, but find somebody that can be your go-to person and you can say, hey, I'm coming up against this for the first time and I'm not expecting you to solve the problem for me, but if you were me, where would you look for answers? But I think going it alone in 2025 with everything that's going on, I wouldn't want to do that. Absolutely find your people.
That's great advice.
Well, thank you so much, Alaina. This wraps up this episode of Now, Near, in the Future. You can find us on all the usual podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, LinkedIn, and YouTube if you want to watch. And you can find us at nownearfuture.com. And our handles on Instagram and social are at nownearfuture.
And if you love the podcast, you can subscribe, leave a review, and tell your friends. If you don't, we'll assume you're just jealous because we're great at doing and hosting podcasts.
That's right. You're all just jealous.
You know it.
Haters gonna be hating. Alaina, remind us where people can find you on social or your website.
Yeah, my website is alainawis.com, ALAINAWIS, and same spelling, obviously, for Twitter or X, and on Instagram, at AlainaWis or at BELLEIEVE, or on LinkedIn.
That's great. And thank you so much for joining us. Seriously, I really enjoyed this conversation. I've learned things that I didn't know about.
Me too.
And the things behind the gaming and all the voiceovers. So yes, might get my nephew interacting with it. So yeah, it's been
All
lovely
right.
having you.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been a joy. And hey, we're all in this together, right? We're all creatives and we will persevere.
That's right. Well, as always, stay curious and keep dreaming.
And we will see you in the future.